Okay, so we're looking at IELTS Task 2 essay. To what extent do you agree or disagree? Okay, so it's an argumentative essay. So you definitely need to have your own opinion. You don't necessarily have to address both sides of the argument, but you can do as long as you criticize the point of view that you don't agree with. So the topic, universities should accept equal numbers of male and female students in every subject. To what extent do you agree or disagree? Okay, so let's take a look at the introduction. It is generally argued that gender equality should be broadened into the chance of the admission of university. I would just say it changes into university admissions decisions. In my view, the opportunity of education is one of the main shortcuts to make a better and fairer society, which can be improved by giving the same chance to male and female students. I strongly agree with this opinion. Okay, so what I think this candidate hasn't quite done is not quite understood what the question is asking. So they focused on giving the same chance to male and female students. So as in like they should both be considered the same for entering university. But the question is saying at university, should the universities make sure that every subject is 50-50 male and female students? Okay, so I'm sure you're aware that like usually at university there's some sort of gender bias. Like there tends to be more female students in English classes or humanities or psychology, and there tend to be more male students in things like computer science and engineering and maths. And that's something that's in every country. And of course, that's just a very general trend, and it's not always true. So what this question is asking is, should universities have a policy to say, oh, in our maths course, in our maths major, we should have 50% male students and 50% female students to try and encourage gender equality in terms of the subject. So that's really what they're asking. It's kind of sort of affirmative action for gender. But this candidate, I think, has taken it as, should they be given the same chance to go to university? Which obviously, yes, they should be given the same chance. So they've not quite understood what the question is asking, which is understandable because it's a bit of a weird idea. And it seems a sort of silly idea that you should, be forced to have a specific standard. Anyway. So let's look and see what they've written. To begin with, there are some arguments that the chance of education should depend on just the qualification of each student, such as SAT scores or grades. First and foremost, university is an institution which gives higher education and deepens research to students. This doesn't really make sense. Deepens research to students. I don't know what that means. This means that university should give admission to qualified students who have the ability to comprehend the given course by the university. Moreover, students who do not have sufficient capabilities about the course cannot understand the class and can even end up quitting their studies, which can weaken the educational competence of the university overall. Thus, giving admission should be fair and unbiased from their social status, such as gender for the students of the university. Okay, yes, but that's not quite what the question is asking. The question is saying for every major like early education, psychology, computer science, chemical engineering should have 50% male students and 50% female students. On the other hand, in my view, university needs to try to improve the situation of gender inequality. Firstly, one of the main goals of education is teaching, which will give the opportunity to get a decent job that allows higher social status and salary. For example, even an unprivileged student who gets a chance to study in university can become a lawyer or a doctor. In fact, many decent jobs have been the exclusive property of men historically. Secondly, this affirmative action can change and improve the inequality of this world. There is no doubt that the unfair discrimination should be abolished. Therefore, universities should offer the same chance to male and female students. again, this isn't quite what the question is asking. If the question was asking, should the universities discriminate who gets to come into their course? No, of course, yes, would be a great answer, but it's not quite answering the question. This part as well, many decent jobs have been the exclusive property of men historically. Okay, this needs to be linked more strongly to this idea. So how would admitting equal numbers of men and women help fix this situation? Because if you have equal numbers of men and women studying the same majors, then they'll be entering the job market, the same types of jobs in equal numbers and so on and so forth. But overall, it's very well written. The grammar is good. The vocabulary is good. They're explaining themselves. It's just a shame that they've not quite fixed on what the question is asking, or the topic of the question. To sum up, while there are some arguments which disagree with gender affirmative action in university, I believe that this action can make our world happier and better for everyone. Okay, nothing wrong with that conclusion. Okay, so grammar, I'm going to go the other way that I normally go because I want to talk about task achievement last. So grammar, I thought was very good. There's a couple of issues. I would say they have got to look at their determiners, which are tricky. And some of, I think their tenses were pretty good. There was this one phrase, I didn't know what they meant. The pluralizations, a little bit, but overall pretty good. So I'd want to give a 6.5 for grammar. Vocabulary, I thought was great. I'd probably give a 7 for vocabulary. Lots of paraphrasing, lots of different phrasing, appropriate formal use of language. That was all good. Cohesion and coherence. It was logical what they were saying. I wanted them to explain a bit more in body 2. That wasn't quite clear enough. So I would give a 6.5 and say body 2 needs extending. So you need to explain in more detail your reasoning why you believe stuff. Now, task achievement is tricky because they're not answering the question that was asked, but it's related to the question that was asked, and it was overall very competent the way they answered the question they thought they were answering. So unfortunately, I'm going to sort of mark this down as sort of like a 5.5 because it wasn't actually addressing the core issue of the question, but what they were arguing was pretty good. Even though they were saying universities shouldn't discriminate between men and women, but the question was saying, well, should they let equal numbers of people into each major, So I don't think they were quite focusing on the question. But overall, I think this would probably come out as a 6. Maybe I could generously see a 6.5 because everything else about it was really good. It was just a slight misunderstanding of the question. But I thought this candidate did a really good job and they should be very proud of what they wrote because I thought it was a good essay.